It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. That same Odyssey app that Michael Phillips, in a classic bite from this here radio program, referenced in that hour open, and the same one that you can now hear him on every day from 10 a.m. to noon. Yes, boys and girls, Michael Phillips, MP on the mic. Brand new show on 910 The Fan down in Richmond. And if that wasn't enough, Anthony, let's welcome in Michael for Not My Beat and then make our final announcement in terms of Phillips.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
That's right. Michael, on a Monday, and Mr. Phillips, you have, unless you just did that sleepily last night and didn't realize what you agreed to do this all season long once again. Mondays with Michael is officially back, baby. Yeah!
We went like 16th or 18 last year. It was a pretty good – I did better than the team. I promise you that. I feel like it was a pretty good percentage. I always enjoy the chat. And Monday's a great day to do it because we got so much to talk about. You know, I ran out of time there on my show today, 10 to noon. I felt like we had so much more to cover. And I just thought, all right, let's bank this for that July 17th show when we're when we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. You know, it goes around and it comes around.
It does. So you want to know my hot take now after doing this a couple years, full time every day? I actually think that August 17th is harder than July 17th.
Because you don't have the excitement of football coming. It's just training camp.
So yeah,
news.
Everyone understands that on July 17th, it's the middle of July and nothing really is happening and there's anticipation. By August 17th, you feel like you should have some kind of information, and what you realize is all you have is training camp, which is a whole bunch of proverbial empty calories.
You know, so many people ask me if I missed not covering training camp, and there were some aspects of it I definitely missed. It's a great time to build relationships with the players. You do get to see behind the scenes a lot more than you do in season. But in terms of the day-to-day cranking out the reportage, you know, once you've done a few of them, you realize everything you say is probably going to be proven wrong as soon as an actual kickoff happens.
Right. Which brings us to not quite September 17th, but September 10th yesterday when there was an actual kickoff. What to you was the most important thing or most interesting thing that happened yesterday between the Commanders, Cardinals, or in the stands, as obviously that is a major story as well?
Yeah, I think I would take the off the field as the major story. I think they did a great job. And one of the things I think people don't appreciate about this new ownership group, because we've heard about them for a very long time. We've heard this has been coming for a very long time. The NFL, though, was very clear with them that they were not to meddle with the business or start doing anything until the sale was official, which was mid-July. Now, obviously, I'm sure they were brainstorming. I'm sure they were writing on napkins. I'm sure they were having conference calls. But they really have done a lot that has been very impressive in that short amount of time. The way the stadium looked was very sharp, I thought. The way they brought back the legends, had Portis and Champ Bailey there.
Yeah.
I thought that was
what
really
a picture,
cool.
by the way, having those two together.
Yeah. Flying in Sonny, and he was there next to Harris. I think they deserve a ton of credit. And selling the place out, obviously. I mean, let's just go to the most obvious one there. I think they deserve a lot of credit for putting together a really fun day of football for everybody involved.
No doubt. And, you hope that it continues to improve. The one thing I forgot to check on, the old ingress-egress. Harris made a big deal out of that. I know they did some stuff to shut down certain roads and help flow out of the stadium yesterday. I didn't see any major reports that worked one way or the other. I certainly hope it does, as someone who plans on going to a couple games this year and needs to get out quickly because he would like to get back home and do his post-game show at a reasonable hour. But,
can I nerd out for a second on you?
Yeah, let's go. Highway Patrol, Phillips, off you go.
Essentially, a highway can only take, at the most, like if they do everything correctly that they plan on doing it and want to execute, they can only put 7,000 cars an hour on a highway going one direction. And of course, there's only one highway there. It goes two directions. But no matter how good they are at it, the maximum number of cars you can put on the Beltway in an hour from that spot is 14,000. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to sit in your car a little while. You're going to have to wait after the game. I grew up going to games at Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City. Very fun atmosphere, lots of people. After the game, you just sit by your car, watch the late games on TV, cook some hot dogs. You're not going anywhere. That's part of attending a pro football game at a place that doesn't have Metro access, which is why every time we talk about the stadium, I think Metro access is very important.
That is a very good point. Also in Kansas City, with all due respect to all the tailgaters, the tailgating is better in terms of food. In Kansas City, if you walk through the parking lot of Arrowhead and you like barbecue, you're going to be very hungry by the time you get inside because the smells
There are two parking lots in the NFL that have very distinctive smells, Craig. The Kansas City one, which of course smells like barbecue, and the old Oakland Raiders parking lot, which
different.
was literally just a cloud of marijuana as you walked into the stadium.
You don't get that in Vegas. You probably could, but not as distinctly as Oakland. All right, Michael Phillips is
Chris Jones back with the Chiefs, by the way. Just came across the old wires here.
There you go. I guess he got a raise. I guess that probably happened at some point. I guess we'll follow up on that when we go around the NFL at 5:30. Phillips with us here on the Hoffman Show. Again, the new show which you can listen to 10 to noon on the Odyssey app via 910 The Fan, or if you're obviously driving down in Richmond, check him out 10 to noon each and every day on 910 The Fan. So, on the field, Sam Howell is obviously like the most interesting thing. You've got some good, you've got some bad. Overall, when you compare it to your expectations, how do you think that he did?
I really like Sam Howell, what he brings to the table. I love his unflappability, how he made just a stupid decision, and the offensive line was bad on that play too. I think it was Wiley that whiffed hard on a block. Leads to 7 before halftime, so that's not all Howell's fault. Wiley whiffed on the block too, but he shouldn't have fumbled that. And then he bounces back, gets him 3. I think that's a really important 3 points. I love the way he flings the ball around. I love his passing style. We talk about training camp reporting. One of the things we all said coming into the year was he needs to work on his decision making, and this goes all the way back to UNC. You talk to people in North Carolina, he doesn't get the ball out quickly enough. He's a little too indecisive. I had hoped to see some strides forward, but I also accept that we've bought a ticket to a year-long show here in a lot of ways, and to expect him to be that polished in week 1 is probably overly optimistic. I think he will improve on that as the season goes on. I wish he had taken fewer of those sacks, got the ball out quicker, had more of that internal clock, but I think the way he feels today will probably help him learn that, more quickly than you do it in front of tape or in a practice setting.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's also a couple of key plays that, you can do this in every game. But just to do it for this one, there's a couple plays where he has balls hit receivers in the hands. If they catch it, they're in better down and distance, better situations. They're rolling on that drive where Gibson fumbles. And they really kind of stopped themselves entirely in the first half. Second half's a different story, but first half they were really rolling. He threw for 169 yards in the first half and had a couple of drops mixed in there. So I actually think like there's a lot of positive to build on. The question is, will they build on it, or is this who they are, and how much of that was impacted by the fact that the opponent, while probably better than a lot of fans want to give them credit for, is still not good by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, we also didn't get a chance to see him fling it around late, which I came to Eric Bieniemy's defense on this. I think he correctly called a very conservative game down the stretch, understanding the opponent, understanding the field position and what was going on, and that 1 point was probably enough to just salt that away and win. That's not going to be the case every week, and if they're in the same situation in Denver this week, if they happen to be up 1 with 13 minutes left and they've got the ball, they are not going to be conservative. They'll understand they need to score more points to win. So I think that we got a taste of Sam Howell early. We did not get as much Sam Howell late. I think that was the correct decision for the moment and for the game. But everything I've seen of him in 2-minute drill style situations, minus that fumble, has been very, very positive so far. So I trust him in key situations and crunch time situations already. And that goes a long way in the locker room.
No doubt about it. Michael Phillips with us here on the Hoffman Show for his Monday visit. So what did you make of Bieniemy's day overall? I think there's some fair potential griping about the run-pass distribution in the first half and early third quarter as Sam's starting to struggle a little bit. But I also think that this team's just going to pass more, and they've got to convert some of this quick game stuff. But, this is a living entity, this team. It's going to change each and every week depending on a multitude of factors. What'd you make of his day yesterday?
Yeah, I had no issues with the distribution. You pass to win in the NFL. This was an opportunity to get your young quarterback comfortable. He took advantage of that. You talk about when you stick with guys and when you go away from guys. And I'm not a good radio host yet, Craig, because I would like to acknowledge there are tons of shades of gray in this. I'm not going to pick a lane and go hard on this.
Michael, if we can't do shades of gray, then I don't have a show, and they haven't fired me yet. Give yourself a little bit of credit, or be prepared for the 4 to 7 slot on the Team 980.
I love it. Antonio Gibson fumbles. We don't hear from him again. It's over. Logan Thomas lets a few passes hit his hands, Kadarius Toney style. Keeps getting targeted. That's an in the flow situation where you've got to make the decision. Who are we sticking with? Who are we bailing on because they're not the hot hand? He made 2 different decisions, and I think the jury's very much still out on both of those decisions. But those are 2 guys I'm very, very curious to watch their workloads next week. Does Gibson get another chance to be a 50-50 ball carrier with Robinson, or has that ship largely sailed? And does Cole Turner start to get some more targets because he had a very nice catch in the game, or do they stick with Logan Thomas? One thing we know for sure, this is an offense that loves to throw it to the tight end. I don't think that's going to change in the next 7 days. I do view it as strictly a Logan Thomas versus Cole Turner discussion as opposed to some kind of, are they going to move the ball through other methods? I think they're sticking with the tight end.
Yeah, they will. I do think as the season goes, McLaurin will be more involved. Like there's definitely packages of plays. And I think we saw it perhaps most aptly the game he got hurt. I'm trying to remember who it was against that game, whatever game that was in the preseason. When he gets hurt.
The Ravens.
Yeah, that's right. It was the Ravens game. And he had a ton of catches. And then all of a sudden he goes out and they just plug Jahan in, and Jahan goes nuts in that game. He had like 7 catches and a half or something ridiculous. But I do think Terry will get a little bit more involved. I do have a pin in kind of the fact that he only had 4 targets, but also, acknowledging that as much as they say, oh, it's Arizona, we're not taking it lightly. I don't think they unloaded the full arsenal because it was Arizona. It is week 1 and it's a long season. But I do think the Logan Thomas question is a real one of, was that a matter of rust and he's actually the guy we saw early in training camp, or was training camp a facade and they really did make a huge mistake not upgrading at tight end during the offseason?
Yeah, and I think they had so many other needs. I was a big believer this offseason that the tight end was not the place to spend your free agency money or your draft capital. I just think you had enough good in-house options, and I do think Cole Turner will be a good in-house option if Logan Thomas isn't what you need him to be. He's a guy who has earned the benefit of the doubt, I believe, over time, earned the ability to get more touches on Sunday and earn the ability to get more touches down the line. On the Terry thing, I have not seen the coach's tape yet. I don't know if it's out yet. It's usually not out at this point after the game. But it seemed to me like they did dial up a number of deep shots to Terry early that Sam did not pull the trigger on, that Hal did not pull the trigger on. I got the sense he was probably making the correct decision. That is tough to tell from TV, so I'm not giving you a full rundown of, maybe there were opportunities. I think there were some opportunities to hit Diami deep. I think that's a very different sentence than you had an opportunity to hit Terry deep and you turned it down. I think Terry was double covered a lot. I think the Cardinals did make it a point to take him out of the game. And that was one of the things we were curious about coming in was, do you show Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel the respect of single covering Terry? I think they were shadowing Terry and letting Jahan eat. I think a lot of teams are going to make that decision, at least early in the year.
Right. That is probably the right decision, as great as Jahan is and as good as Curtis is, but Terry is the guy that makes the explosive stuff happen, and those are the plays that kill you in the NFL. Speaking of, the Commanders' defense did a good job of not giving up really any big plays. How much of that do you put on them, and what do you take out of their performance, knowing it was against Josh Dobbs and the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I think you're trying to give a little credit to the Cardinals earlier in this segment, and I'm quite disappointed in you. That was a really bad football team. Obviously there's the tanking rumors and all that swirling around them. Of course, you're always playing to win on an NFL field, but I think ownership there has built a team capable of going 3-14 this year, and I get the sense that may be their objective there.
To be clear, roster-wise, they are not very good, but they're a professional outfit. They've got some really good players, and they play hard, and that's enough to make things interesting on any given Sunday.
Sure, and this is like the football-baseball discrepancy, right? Like in baseball, it's like I root for the Kansas City Royals. They are just a flaming bag of dog poo on any given day. It's baseball, though, so if they play a 3-game series against the Orioles or whoever's hot right now, they're going to win one of them. Like, statistically speaking, you can win in baseball 1 out of every 3 nights. In football, it's actually not totally dissimilar. Like, if they play Cardinals Commanders 10 times, what do you give the Cardinals? 2 of them?
Yeah, probably.
I think they could win. And the thing with statistics is, if you say the Commanders have an 80% chance of winning in today's game, people hear, the Commanders will win. Nah, 20% happens sometimes. Like, that's 1 out of every 5 times. And so people do not fully grasp that even sure thing games don't pan out. You can ask Kirk Cousins about that.
Wow. Nice little, wow, there goes my voice too. Holy crap, Michael. Are we in trouble here? Michael, you're going to have to do more radio? Please come back, voice. Oh, man.
I don't know what happened there. You had asked me, though, about the defense playing against the Cardinals, and I didn't answer the question even a little bit, so I'll give you a minute to bounce back here.
All right, thanks. Anthony, can you pop me down so I can get this cough out? Okay, thanks.
I'm going to let him rip on that. I felt like the defense really played well. Jack Del Rio got a game ball after the game, in addition to Josh Harris, who, of course, gets a game ball after every game now, as per Ron Rivera's new tradition, which I really hope he continues. I hope he does that after every single win this season. But it was a well-deserved game ball for Del Rio. He had his guys in the right places. They made good plays. They largely picked up where they left off last year, which is never a sure thing. New year, new approach. Everybody's got a year's worth of film on you. I have not revised any of my predictions on this defense. I thought they could be a really, really good unit, potentially top 5, top 7 in the league, statistically speaking. I still feel that way. I still think this is a really good group. Now, I watched the Cowboys, decimate the Giants last night. You're like, okay, maybe they're not at that level, but I think this is a really good defense. And I was excited to see the secondary. That was what I didn't quite get a sense for. They look good. Time to give Cam Curl a contract extension, time to lock him up. And then up front, obviously, Montez Sweat. If he plays like that in this contract year, man, that's going to be something special.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just gave a bunch of names, and I didn't even mention Jonathan Allen, who was just his normal, absolutely dominant self. Deron Payne, who was just taking care of business in there. I love how good those guys are every game. That's one of my favorite things about the coaches tape. Just watching those guys play snaps. I don't actually get anything out of it as a journalist or a radio host. Nobody wants to hear me go snap by snap with Deron Payne. But dang, if it isn't a lot of fun to watch them play professional football.
No, they crush other grown men. And you're like, that was fun. Next snap. Watch him do it again. Oh, that was fun. Next snap. Okay. Well, nope, here comes the punter. Guess we'll have to wait for the next series. One thing I did find interesting defensively is Forbes didn't start. He was the rotation piece. Like, now, when he came in, he played on the outside. But what did you make of St. Juste and Fuller getting the start with Forbes being the rotation guy? And I haven't seen final snap counts yet, but that's certainly how it started and seemed to be how it went most of the day.
I believe Fuller played 100% of the snaps, which you would have gotten an incorrect guess out of me coming into the game on that. I don't mind. And what was the discussion? Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit the other day, or Drake London in Atlanta. Everybody seems to have these conversations with the young guys. They should have been used more. It's a long season, and I don't know if that's why the move was made. I do think he is ready in a lot of ways to go ahead and be out there on a regular basis. But I think you have to have a certain amount of respect for the leap here from the college season to the NFL season, and especially the 17-week NFL season. And I approve of bringing these guys in gradually, assuming you have the luxury of being able to do that. Now, I do think at a certain point you're going to be in tough games where you need your best guys and your best playmakers on the field. And the one thing we all want out of this defense is more takeaways, and he's the guy best positioned to give it to you. So I think this may have been more of a one-off than a consistent thing. But I do, in principle, generally like the idea of bringing young guys in slowly because it's a long season.
I don't disagree with that philosophy, but that is second to get your best guys on the field, and I'm not entirely sure he's not one of their two best corners already.
He can change the game in ways that the other guys can't, and sometimes you need a game to be changed.
That's true. Yesterday, they just needed it to go the full 60 because they were going to be better over that time. They wore down the Cardinals and ultimately got there. All right, what you got coming up on the show tomorrow, Michael? Something I've never gotten to ask you before.
I know, it's exciting. Day 2 of MP on the mic. I did I thought a solid 2 hours of radio today, and they told me I will have to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the real pain in the butt.
Part of the business, yeah.
When you do the weekends and the fill-ins, you're like, all right, that was a show. All right, cool. When's my next one? Thursday? Sweet.
Yeah.
This 5 days a week stuff. They make you do it 5 times. It's crazy.
You know, I'm going to go deep on the Commanders' offense. I think we'll devote Tuesdays to that. I'll be excited for Monday Night Football. I'm really fired up for this game, especially after watching what the Packers did to the Bears. I think there's going to be storylines galore coming out of this Monday Night Football, and we've got for the Richmond crowd, we've got the president of the local minor league baseball outfit, the Flying Squirrels. They're right in the middle of a playoff hunt. This is the final week of the season, and they are clinging to the last playoff spot. So a little pennant fever down here in Richmond.
Nice. Anytime you can utter, today on the show, we have the president of the Flying Squirrels. It's a good show. Michael Phillips, MP on the mic, is the show 10 to noon on 910 The Fan down in Richmond, which you can listen to on the free Odyssey app. Mike will be back with us next Monday. Until then, sir, have a great 4 more shows, because guess what? After you're done tomorrow, they're going to ask you to do it again on Wednesday.
Unbelievable. You guys are ridiculous. Good chatting with you, Craig. Catch you next Monday.
See you, man. The audacity of the Odyssey. All right, that's Michael Phillips, everybody.
This is The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.